This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. In the Q&A, the show I take your questions from YouTube, Twitter, and answer them here in video format. Ton of things to get into, so we'll just get started with it. Ashton Barkalov with the first question says, with the additions we've made to the defense, do you think that our second round pick is looking more and more like a wide receiver, or do you think we could be used in a trade? I'm thinking that they're locked into players, not positions. I think they have players that they really like and want to be available there. If they feel like they could get somebody who they feel like is a premium talent at 42, they'll stay there. If they feel like it's just some mid there, they'll trade back so they can get more mid to fit more positions. I think, honestly, that's more or less the thought process with the draft this year. I don't think they're locked into a position. I think they're locked into players. Who those players are, I don't really have a great read on that yet, but I think they're locked into players, and I think you'll see, like, if a certain player gets taken off the board, that's what would trigger the Browns to get drafted back, to trade back, versus a run on a position or something like that. The next question comes from Scarehouse Tim, who says, with all the additions to the defense and free agency and Jim Schwartz at the helm, do you see the Browns with the top 10 or even top 5 defense? Love the channel, love the work you do. Look, I'm not going to go top 5, top 10. I'm not going to play that game this year because I got burnt, unbelievably burnt last year doing it. Here's what I'll say. I think they should have a good defense. I think they should have had a good defense last year. I don't think there was really an excuse. That's why somebody got fired. They should have a good defense. Will they have a good defense? I'm pretty confident. How good that defense will be, I don't know. Things have to click at a high level. Guys have to adjust for that to happen. But I think there will be, at the very least, a good defense. And that's what they need this defense to be this year, is good. If it's great, awesome, amazing. But if it's good, that's where it needs to be. Jay Terra says, kind of skeptical of the offense will take off coming this year. I was initially against trading for D-Hop, but the more I think about it, it probably would make Deshaun feel more comfortable, possibly would maybe make me more comfortable as well. What gives you the confidence the offense will not only be good, but consistent? Well, ultimately, we as fans aren't going to have confidence in this offense being consistent until we see it on the football field. They could trade for anybody. We still going to ask, is it going to work? This and that. They could trade for D-Hop. We'll ask if he's too old, right? Nothing that happens in the offseason is going to make us feel more comfortable about the offense, because quite frankly, the offense is going over a massive change. And until we see those change give us positive results, we're not going to feel confident in it. That's just how change works, right? You're not confident in change until you see it and you go, oh, this is dope. It's kind of like when we talk about a new stadium, right? Not a lot of people are confident in a dome or this and that because they've only seen open air stadiums. But I promise you, if you built a very nice dome and then people walk into that dome, they'll look around and go, oh, nah, this gonna work. This is dope, because they have to see it to be comfortable. Same thing with NFL offenses. We are not going to be comfortable with this offense until we see it in NFL games look good on a consistent basis. Then we'll get comfortable with it. Comfort happens during the season. They could trade for anybody, and that will happen. Now, as far as what do I think they'll be fine. I think Deshaun Watson's pretty good. I think Amari Cooper's pretty good. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is good. I think they'll add another wide receiver. I think that David Njoku's pretty good, and I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine on offense at the very least. I think a lot of the rigmarole is just because of all the change, but the change is good. We're adding better players. We're adding a better quarterback with more time to adjust to the NFL game that has changed since he has left. Like, these are all good things. I think we'll have a positive change on offense. But as far as comfort, I'm not comfortable until I see it. And we won't be comfortable until we see it. The next question comes from Ian, who says, which of these wide receivers currently on the roster do you think has the possibility of taking a jump or being a possible real contributor in the upcoming season? It's between David Bell and Michael Woods. I honestly feel like Michael Woods might have more of a role carved out for himself because he's a little bit more athletic, a little bit bigger of a guy. Maybe he has some 50-50 ball potential there. And I think that's what really needs to be That's what really this offense needs. And I think that's going to be a hole that they have. I don't really see David Bell being that guy, but if he is, that's cool as well. But I think that's kind of the role that they need. And I think that's going to be more immediate for a guy like Michael Woods. David Bell, I think he'll be fine in the next few years, but I just think his role is going to be eaten up because Donovan Peoples-Jones does so much of what he's asked to do. The next question is from Andrew Jackson. Says, overall grade for free agency so far, I would say B+ to an A. They've done a pretty good job here with free agency. I cannot complain. Mike says, if AB were to pick up a vet receiver, do you still expect him to target a receiver early on in the draft, or would they push back into like day 2 or day 3? Again, I don't think the Browns draft position or what they draft is locked into a position. They're locked into players. It might be a guard. It might be a tackle. It might be a D tackle. It might be an edge rusher. It might be a linebacker. I think they're more locked into players right now than position. I think we're looking at this as a position thing because we're looking at this as needs. I don't think the Browns, and this is the second year in a row we've done this, where I felt like the Browns didn't really have that much of a need at wide receiver, and they didn't feel like they had a need at wide receiver, and they stuck with what they had, and it ended up being fine. I think they feel the same way. Mr. Camtastic says, hey, Q, just want to let you know I love the content. At 42, my plan is that if AO is there or Felix aren't there at 42, we should trade down because we need the picks. If the Browns don't value the players available high, do you still disagree with this plan? I don't think we need the picks as much as we need game changers. And if you feel like a game changer is there at 42, you take it. Honestly, if you feel like there's a chance that you can have a game changer at 42, which I think there's a good chance at that, you take it. I don't love trading back because we don't really need to trade back anymore. Like, what are the more picks going to do for us? I don't really see that doing much for us because we have enough guys who can be average level starters that are young, under control. We need some guys who are going to break through. And you don't find guys you're going to break through often when you trade back like that. Harry Lambert says, if it was up to you, how would you approach the draft? Go defensive line early or wide receiver? I have a group of players that I like. I like Marvin Mims. I like AO. I like a number of players here. So if those guys are available, I'm taking them. If Marvin Mims is there at 42, I would probably take Marvin Mims because I think he's going to be a pretty good player. Like, that's what I would do, in my opinion. But that's not what the Browns would do, or that's not me saying what I think the Browns are going to do. So again, that could change. The next question comes from D-Dog, who says, hey, QnA, test and showed up that he has a rare once-in-a-generation type of athlete, but his game film was rather average. If you were a GM and something like that would scare you off of him. No, because drafting in the NFL isn't a reward show for college football production. Right. I think we sometimes look at drafting in the NFL as it is this reward show for college football production, where it's like, hey, so the most productive player should get drafted up here, when it's not. It's a projection. It's a job interview. We're projecting how well you could do this thing that we want you to do. And sometimes the projection matters more than the resume. Right. If I see traits in you that I feel like can help me be successful, and you're exactly what I need on this team, I'm going to draft you, regardless of if I have questions about your tape, because the fundamental stuff, that can be changed. If you have bad feet, that can be changed. If you have a bad pad level, that can be changed. That's the coach's job, right? I think Mike Tomlin had a great quote about this and it's funny that he drafted Kenny Pickett after saying this, but he said, hey, when guys are out on draft picks because they're worried about stuff bad habits that they saw on game film, that tells me you're afraid to coach. You can't be afraid to coach, because if you don't think you can correct that, if you don't think you can fix a player's fundamentals, what are you actually doing as a coach? Serious question. Right? If a player has bad pad level and you're like, I don't want to coach a player who has bad pad level, what are you coaching? If you're only coaching players who do things perfectly, you're not really coaching. You're just standing there while other guys do things right. A coach is supposed to help, right? If I'm coaching somebody to become a better YouTuber, I'm not just going to pick the most, I'm not just going to be like, oh, Mr. Beast, let me coach you. What I'm going to tell Mr. Beast? Mr. Beast going to do whatever he wants. He's very successful, right? But if I want to coach somebody, I'm going to take somebody and be like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to adjust things. This is how the thumbnail needs to be. You need to coach. You need to teach, right? Things are not going to be perfect in a situation where coaching is necessary, because coaching is tutoring. And you don't go to a tutor when you have straight A's unless you really about that GPA life. Like, there are some people who do that. Shout out to y'all. But like, other than that, you usually go to a tutor when you need work. Yeah, he has some issues that showed up in tape. He needs work. Do you think you can fix him? Are you a coach, or are you a beneficiary of great players? Because look, Myles Garrett, anybody can coach Myles Garrett. It ain't hard. All you got to be is let Myles Garrett do Myles Garrett. He going to be fine. Anybody can coach Myles Garrett. But coaching guys like Perion Winfrey who have some issues, pad height and all that, that takes coaching. And that's why the Browns hired Jim Schwartz. That's what Jim Schwartz's job's to be. So that should not stop the Browns from drafting anybody. And honestly, if your lack of faith in your team's ability to coach a raw prospect is the reason you're not drafting a player, you need to have a different coordinator or different coaches, because that's not acceptable. That's not an acceptable reason not to ever take anybody, is that they have raw, undefined skills coming out of college. You should be able to coach these players. KW Outdoors says, realistically, what should the expectations for the season be? Playoffs. That realistically, they got to make the playoffs. What are we doing here with a quarterback that expensive if we ain't making the playoffs? Like, make the playoffs, not almost make the playoffs. That's the expectation. That's a fair expectation. Honestly, a low expectation given what they're spending. Make the playoffs. I know some fans don't like to hear me say that because they feel like it puts more pressure on the season and that they're going to be more intense and angry during it. But hell, man, live in reality. You're paying a quarterback a lot of money. You're paying Myles Garrett a lot of money. The expectation should be to get to the playoffs at the very least. But that's my thoughts. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day.